I'll just say I'm Jennifer. I have my own digital agency. This is me out on the lake shores of Lake Lac Léman in the vineyards when I go hiking. But I have been, I realized, over 20 years creating content. I design, create, and produce digital content for customer documentation, training, marketing, and I've done marketing collateral. And I was in telecom and high tech. So I worked at Nortel Networks. I worked at 3 telecom startups in California. I've done big international website relaunches, sgs.com, to Rhineland.com, and my last marketing gig, my last full-time gig was at Pix4D at the EPFL there in Lausanne. Now I work for myself, and I've switched industries a lot. I'm focusing more on tourism, but I know just because I had 20 years experience in high tech, and my last one was specifically a SaaS product, so I think my knowledge is still relevant. I've done 10 more. I started big international website creation and multilingual website relaunches in 2008. I worked into it. And then I've worked up, I've done really large projects, really small projects, big companies, small companies. And my last startup, I think it was Turn Networks, my second last startup, I was supporting a technical team of 200 engineers as a technical writer. So in those years, I've got skills in market research, user feedback, online competitive research, analytics, and agile project management. And in this small presentation, you can look at my LinkedIn profile, we can connect if you want, and I'll always be available for questions. And I just wanted to say, I guess my last thing here is I've really switched from high tech and I focus now on tourism. It's the place that makes me happy. So our agenda here today was just an introduction about content strategy holistically. And then we were going to look at content strategy for a content marketing framework. And so I actually worked on this presentation a few years ago when I was focusing a lot on kind of product marketing and e-commerce marketing and not necessarily SaaS marketing, but I think we can draw some parallels. And then where we can't draw the parallels, because I was thinking about it today when my son was in the swimming lessons, that I was thinking that my customer journey for SaaS would definitely be different than anyone that I have here, but I'll show that to you as we get to it. This presentation, I also had a workshop at the end, so we won't do that. So also I wanted to say, if you had any questions, you can maybe put them in the chat so you didn't forget them, and then we could go through them after. Or if you wanted to interrupt, I'm not sure how it works. I've actually never done a virtual presentation sort of before, so
I'll be doing the moderator, Jennifer.
Okay.
So people can type in questions in the chat, and if there is something that is, you need to answer right now, I'll interrupt you, and then we can have a chat with the person who posed the question. Otherwise, we'll take the questions at the end.
Okay. All right. So essentially, that's what we're going to look at. So this is the introduction of content strategy, and then looking specifically at content strategy for marketing. And I think SaaS, for me, after experiencing Pix4D, I would definitely create a different path, customer journey for SaaS products, and I would address it accordingly, but I'll show you as we go through. So content strategy. For me, content strategy is like looking at where you can use content to aid your business. And if you look at where you get customers, you're creating content almost all the time. Almost everybody's you're creating content. If you look at a customer journey, so this is a customer journey from Forrester from, I don't know, around 2011. And so people are discovering, they're searching, they're researching, they're comparing, they're deciding, they're purchasing. It always comes back to the customer. And then they figured that sort of, your circle gets tighter and tighter as you move through this journey. So once you use your product, you are you have content at each steps. And what Forrester did is they did this sort of touch point analysis of what kind of touch points that a customer would be using when they were like, I think when they were on their customer journey, and they came up with this infographic. So for me, this just shows that there's content all along your customer journey, and it's in different channels, it's in different platforms, it's in different formats, there's a lot of things going on here. So the Content Strategy Association, there is such a thing, they say that content strategy is cross-functional, it's cross-organizational, and it's a holistic view of content as a business asset. So just for clarification, like when I was working in high tech and telecom, I was specifically a technical writer, so I used to write technical documentation. But at my last startup, which was Dilithium Networks, they had all the IP, by the way, for the video on your phone networks, the H323, HT324 protocols. And we were able to create content and put it in a database. And that content was used for marketing. It was used for customer documentation. It was used for training. It was like used in all parts of the product awareness. And that was really interesting to work on. So it's cross-functional. Anybody who works in content, they understand that. Content marketing specifically is from the Content Marketing Institute. This is a strategic marketing approach focused on creating and distributing valuable, relevant, and consistent content that attract and retain a clearly defined audience. And ultimately, it drives profitable customer action. So this is like kind of the official content marketing definition. And for SaaS, like for me, I'll get to that later. So content marketing, there's a manifesto. The Rand Fishkin, he's since moved on from SEO Moz, but he says you can leverage content and the power of content to build trust, earn customers, and create remarkable value for them. And I like that definition. That's what content marketing should be about. What can you do with content? You're not just entertaining people. You're not just like providing polls, or you always have a purpose when you're doing content marketing. So then I just drew this Venn diagram, because content strategy, when you think of content strategy as a whole, you have to understand the tools you're going to use. You have to understand the people and the kind of skills that you need to create it. You have to all have voice and guidelines, style, visual definitions. You have to have SEO guidelines, and most of all, you have to have governance, especially when you start to look at this view, this cross-functional, cross-organizational content. So at the biggest level, the highest level, content strategy abstractly looks like that. Content marketing, is the things that you are doing with your content specifically, and the content marketing strategy comes in like as an overlap in between them. It's the vision, the goals, the audience, the research, and the ideation that you use to create your purpose. So specifically, this presentation was just looking at the outer circle of where content exists in an organization. And that's, for me, that's the buyer's journey. That's where you need to understand where marketing, where you're getting your customers. So for me, the buyer's journey is here. But after they buy it, they continue on their customer journey through, in SaaS, for me, this would be attracting customers to get them to use a trial. And then once they're in a trial, you have to engage them and pay attention to them and understand what touch points they're using so that you can deliver the right message to them and to convert, so that they actually convert at the end of the trial. And then at the end of the trial, they convert to a customer. And then after that, there's a renewal section where you'd want them to renew their trial, their subscription. And then after that, ideally you just want them to loop and loop and loop into subscriptions. However, there's something that a lot of companies, I don't know if they avoid or they don't do well or they just forget, but there's the offboarding part when a customer stops being your customer. There's a really good way to do that. There's a really bad way to do that. And then there's just, you know, the passive way is like, okay, see you later. Don't have to, don't have to worry about us again. But, you know, when you're offboarding a customer, especially with SaaS now, SaaS products, there's a lot to do, a lot of things to deal with, especially with GDPR. So for me, if you're a SaaS company and you're looking at content in your organization, I think the most, how do you say, a valid way to look at it so that you understand is what steps do they go through in your organization and who's most responsible for them at which point. So marketing would be responsible for them at getting them to the trial. Then there should be like a team getting them from a trial to the customer. And then once they become a customer, they need to be nurtured to remain customers. And then occasionally when they're not customers anymore, you have to have at least a process or people or something to deal with the offboarding. So I don't have that here, but that's how I would look at content in a SaaS company. So we are going back to marketing. And in my process, in my framework, it's just a framework to start thinking about what you need to think about before you create any sort of content, anything that works. And again, I said I put this together, I think in 2016, 2017, and I might do things a bit differently now that I've had experience in a SaaS company, but the principles are still the same. So the first thing, the first part of the framework is knowing your purpose and goals. The purpose and goals of the organization, of the product, and of what you're trying to do with content. So there's 3 dimensions there. The next thing you need to know, and you need to really do a lot of work on, and I hope you're already doing a lot of work on there, is understanding your customer, who they are. And it's not your ideal customer either. If you're a SaaS company, you already have customers. So it's understanding your real customer. And then you need, for content marketing, you need an idea, a theme, or you need the brand voice and visual guidelines and different things there. Then you need to put it all together, make the plan, like understand what you want to do. Then you need to make a plan to get there. And once you make the plan, you need to understand like the capabilities of, if you've decided, oh, we're going to do a big video campaign, but your content person only does blogs, like text, like that's never going to work. You really need to understand what you want to do and then build your skills and capabilities from that. And that for me is called the governance cycle there. Who owns it? Who approves it? Who makes it go out? Everything like that. And here, this is my analytics. So it's like, know how you're going to measure success. Because if you develop a campaign or if you just continue doing what you're doing and you don't know what your success looks like, then you can never prove your value. So 3 years later, I'm all about analytics. I'm all about research, and then I'm about developing ideation from there. But this is what I put together then. So we can go on for content purpose and goals. And for content marketing, because I was working with a marketing department then, just before you start anything, you should really know, as I said, the goals of your business, short-term, long-term. You should really know the goals of your product, what pains it solves or what problem it solves. And then you should really know the purpose that you're creating the content for. As I said, creating entertaining content versus educational content. I mean, there's different purposes there. So my slides later on goes into looking at what kind of purpose content can have. So here, and then I have in brackets what what you're doing with content, you're either creating it, you're curating it, which means somebody else has created it, you're generating it, your users are generating it for you, and then you're like republishing it. So you have to understand those are the 4 things that you do with content, especially in marketing. Okay, so I have here, this was so ideal, but again, it was like you want to have a focus statement before you start for what you're trying to do. That's your organization business, your target audience. What are you trying to achieve with it? And then for your business goals and your content goals. And this is straight out of Content Strategy for the Web by Katrina Harrelson, I think. I'm just looking on, oh, there it is. I was looking on it for earlier this morning. I was looking for the book on my desk, but it's Megan Casey and Christina Harrelson. It's about like really knowing why you're doing it. You can't just create random content and then hope it's going to work, or you can, and then you're in a different mindset there. But so this is a mad gab thing, and at our organization, we want to do this by sourcing and distributing, or creating, generating, curating, and or we want to do this business goal with this content goal for this audience so that they can do something that contribute. It all ties it together, but at the end, I did this with, as Maddie said, with the umbrella, the organization that sold umbrellas, and it worked. Secondly, like once you have your compass or what you are trying to do specifically at that point in time with your content, then you can go on, you understand your audience and you understand the journeys that they take. So visualize what are real customers doing and how they buy things, and then interact with each other. So for me, when I was learning about personas and marketing and stuff, everybody was like, who's your ideal customer? So create your personas based on that. But for me, it's not that. It's like, who is your real customer? Who are they? And that's not just the demographics. Are they men? Are they women? Are they this age range or that age range? I mean, those kind of personas are really good for personal consumable products, but you really want to know more, like especially in SaaS, I think you want to know what their position is, what are they, it's more of a professional persona. What are they doing? Why are they what problems are they trying to solve at work? And what are their problems they want to solve, and what's their hesitation to buying? What are their points of friction? The other thing is especially if you're doing B2B, you also have to understand who's involved in making the purchasing decision. And my anecdote here is when I was at TÜV Rheinland on the marketing team, we made our plans about what we wanted to do and how much budget we wanted, and we took it to the board to get approved. And when it was in the board, like, it took months to get there because it was a big international company. It took us months to get there. And right there, the data security manager said, no, you can't do this. You have to find another analytics tool. And we didn't even, like, they stopped our plans until we found another analytics tool. But it was the data security manager that put a halt onto our 5 million euro kind of budget. So you have to really understand who's involved in making a purchasing decision and what do they expect from the products they use. So for me, this is just a summary slide, but when you're making the personas, you use real data to create them. I have done more since I've made this presentation. I really look into website analytics. I look into keyword research. We start with surveys and interviews of existing customers. Like, there's so many ways you can do that where it doesn't bother the customer. Like, you could say at the end of a login session, you could ask them like one question, and every time they log in or log out, you could just ask them, did you something in there? So you don't have to give them a 10 question survey or something that takes hours to fill out. You can just like pop it in there and ask. But all that has to be designed. Another place to look for data is in reviews, comments, social media comments. That's why that big image is on the screen. you just look and see what they're saying, or you see what their problems are, how they answer stuff, or how they ask questions, live chats, customer support. I mean, get your data and understand it, and understand exactly who you're marketing to. Also, when I did this presentation, I was really big in in copywriting. So all of these help the copywriters immensely to create this content or the ad copy or whatever it is. And then I said, don't make assumptions. Like, don't do ideal customers. Do real customers. That's just a collage of people. And messaging is important. I mean, if all the only things you take out of this part of the presentation is you have the 3 most important questions when you're kind of trying to create relevant content is, what are your customers' biggest hesitations to buying? How does your product or service make your customer lives better? And what motivates the customer to seek out the product or to take action? Like, if you could answer those 3 questions in your research, you have killer web copy, killer persuasive content, killer messaging once you figured that out. Okay, so next is customer journeys. So when I first started doing the research on the customer journeys, there was so many, like how people were looking at them. And I think it's best to understand all of the ways that people look at customer journeys, and then make your own based on your own experience and your own company and your own product. But there's this is called the inbound marketing funnel. So there's funnel marketing, and then this one also says, you know, everybody has this, okay, they convert, they attract, convince, convert, and then there's advocacy. So it's usually the same kind of funnel. I like this one because this one says it can go back in at any level. So this is just one way to look at a funnel. The other way to look at a funnel is the hourglass model. Is people are aware, they have then, I think there's this, personally I think on my customer journey, I have one stage before the awareness. Let's see if they have it. Opportunity, content, okay. Then there's, so you can look at it in a funnel way. I like this particular image because at the activation purchase, I love that it's just activation purchase and there's no other part of it, because when somebody's trying to give you money, just take their money. Don't do anything else there. And then it goes back out and gets a bigger one. There's a customer lifecycle model, which is kind of simple. One of the big firms, I got this from one of the big firms, I can't remember which one, but it's easy: explore, buy, engage. Discover, explore, buy, engage. I just think that there's more. There's the HubSpot model where you're supposed to attract people, convert people, close, and delight them. Yeah, there's more. It's nice to, so I like how they have strangers, visitors, leads, customers, and promoters. That's a nice kind of journey through your product. The touch point model says a lot to me because I used to work in content a lot. And this one says, at every stage, even after they're finished buying, you're as a company, you're not finished convincing them. You're not finished marketing to them. You're not finished making them feel like valued customers. You have to be able to move them from one point to the next, to the next, to the next, and content can help you do that. So this is the Forrester touch point model. Then there's my model, which I was trying to simplify because there's all these ways to look at it. But at the end of the day, this is how I digest things. There's your little customer. He's out there minding his own business, or she's out there, or they're out there, depending on what pronoun you use. And they're unaware. They're unaware that they need your product or service. They're unaware that you have a solution for them. They're just unaware. And then bang, something happens. Something happens, and then they became aware. And they're like, oh, maybe there is something that could help me fix this problem. Then there's this considering phase. So I call it the buyer's journey in stages. So they're unaware, bang, that's it's called the trigger point, and then they're aware, then they're considering, then they're buying it, and then they're experiencing it, and then advocating it. And once they're advocating it, that their advocation could, that's where the amplification comes in. It could become a trigger point for somebody else's buyer's journey. But you could plan, for me, this is how you plan your content. You plan it around somebody being unaware that you exist, unaware that they have a problem, and then they're aware and they're considering, and there are actions that they do at each stage, and there's actions that you do at each stage as the marketer. For me, an example here, super simple example here, I remember the day that I gave this presentation. It was at a meetup in Lausanne, and I had been working at home for 3 years, and I went to put on a pair of jeans, and I was like, bang, those jeans don't fit me anymore. So then I became aware that I had a problem, which is I'm not fit, I'm on, and it has nothing to do with SaaS, but you realize the trigger point. You realize for every purchase or buying, for every purchase that you want to make, there's some sort of trigger point that says, that makes you aware that you want to solve something. That's all. That's all I wanted to say here. So this is my little model. I like it. It's circular. It's simple, until you add in marketing activities at each stage of the buyer's journey. So I added just another level out here where you're supposed to reach the customer on the unaware part. You're supposed to be creating content that sort of says, hey, do you have this problem? Hey, do you have that? We can help you with this problem, or do you want to do this? You can, it's simple with our product. And then you attract them. This is the inbound marketing. So reach is outbound, attract is inbound. Considering is where they're, this is for me the trial part of your SaaS product. It's like, this is where they're considering your product, and don't make the mistake that they're only considering your product. They're not. They're considering, they're doing a product evaluation on what product is going to best suit solve their problems. And so that's where you have to convince them. And so that's where you have to realize you have more touch points. You might want to realize you have more touch points than you think. Buying and converting them to being a customer. So from a trial to a subscription, and then supporting them as they're starting their business, as they're growing or scaling or doing something. There's like the buying phase should be very short and simple. The experiencing and advocating, it's a long time. It could be years. Pix4D, the licensing program, was like, you have a year subscription. So most of my plugins, my WordPress stuff, is like a year subscription service. So I hope that makes sense. That's like, I think, oh, and the other part about it is, once the marketing activities, so the marketing activities here are in gray, and this buyer's journey is in green. So you usually do these in paid channels. Usually do this part in your owned channels, and you do this part in your earned channels. So if you've ever heard of the model of what channels are in your paid, owned, earned ecosystem, then that's, I hope that puts that in perspective. It layers on a lot of information, but that's, so one is, this is just the buyer's journey. This is the marketing activities in the buyer's journey. And then these are the channels where you can engage your customer. Next, I don't know if there's any questions so far, or I can just move through the framework, because that was the first two, I think, and now we're on the purpose of content and ideation. Once you have a big idea, or once you understand what your ecosystem looks like, once you understand who your customers are, what your ecosystem looks like, and what their journey looks like, then you kind of need to have a brainstorming session. And understand the purpose of what you can do with content in those different channels. So I can just continue, Maddie, or is there any questions so far?
Guys, feel free to type out any
Can you hear me?
questions. Or, yes, Patrick.
Yeah, I've got a question. Patrick speaking here.
Hi.
So you've shown a collage of many faces for the personas. So
Yes.
what do you recommend? What number of personas? From my experience, there's a lot of discussion and never fits into this magic 5 from the bell curve. But do you have any opinion on this?
I don't know. I hope you have a UX team, a UX UI team, and they're very, very helpful in this area. I'm trying to think about what my guys would say. My guys would have said, I don't know. How many users do you have? Do you think like 1% of your users is a good ratio? 5% of your users? I'm not sure. As many as you can do in a set period of time. That
Okay.
I guess what I would do, because I also started working agile at the last job, is I would do a set period of time. I would say this week we're working on personas, for example, and we're going to try and do 5 personas. So what does that take? It might take 5 days of interviews, might take interviewing 50 people to get 5 personas. I think that I would set that up at the beginning of a sprint, actually. But I think there you would decide on what your goal is, and you'd say, this is what I'm trying to do, and this is what we're going to do. We're going to interview 50 people and make 5 personas from them or something. But also the UX people would have somebody who's lots of experience in UX might have a better answer than that. But it depends on how many users you have at the moment, and then you can take a percentage of that, or you could just decide on 3 to 5. Yeah, I think that's a personal, individual business decision, team decision. You guys live in Switzerland, or are you from anywhere else? Is anybody on the call from outside of Switzerland?
Yes, I'm from Holland.
Hi.
Hi.
So during the COVID, we had, I think, our head of health say, we will open as fast as possible and as slow as necessary. That was a very famous quote. Everybody got it printed on their t-shirts. And so I was thinking of that when you asked me that question. I'd say as many as you need and as few as required. Sort of a play on that, but you have to determine that. But if you're a SaaS company, I do think that you should have a few people who are buried in user data, user analytics, user personas, and if you have a development team, like, are your development teams, have they created users and personas? Like, that's also another starting point. Like, we're creating this feature for this persona, this user, sort of thing. Did that help or not help?
Patrick says yes.
Okay.
Oh no, it works again. I was, yeah, it worked.
Okay.
It helped. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks. In the past, what I've realized, there was also a big discussion about limiting it at 5, and then you couldn't fit it, and I've seen it a lot. Then they just got ditched in Swiss companies, obviously. But I would like to understand better how one can push these with a more sane argument. But that really helped. Thank you very much.
Okay. I think I like the answer, as many as possible and as few as required. I like that answer. But it's not, I don't think there's a hard set rule at the moment. But as soon as you see diversity in your users, yeah, if you're going with the growth model or the sprint models, as soon as you see diversity in your users, you should understand like what they're using your product for. I know at Pix4D, they were developing photogrammetry software, which was like mainly used in surveying and engineering. And then they quickly realized that they had a bunch of users who wanted to use it for agriculture and a bunch of users who wanted to use it for construction. So they were busy expanding their products based on what their user base was, what they realized their user base was doing, using it for. So as soon as they realized they had a new user base, they tried to, they developed a new product for those user bases, and they defined those user bases, how they would use it, and then they like created their products for it. So, but it was all based off this one kind of core software. But I think that if you're keeping on top of your users and your personas and your user data, I mean, that's what the opportunity gives you. Gives you the opportunity to diversify your product catalog or understand what people are really using it for. Okay. So we're back here for back to marketing. Marketing. And then it's like understanding for me what the purpose, how can you use content in content marketing? How can you use it to attract customers? How can you use it to move them to the next stage of their journey? How can you use it to persuade them to buy your product? There's so many things here. So I'm going to show you again like more slides. They're more like screenshots of what's already out there. But you just have to understand that there's so many things that you can do with content in so many formats. But once you nail, again, your audience and the channels that they're in, and you nail the message, you have got gold for what you need to do, I think. It's not easy getting there, but you can get there. So here, the purpose of content and content marketing, there's something called the content marketing matrix, where you're at the top here, you're on the awareness stage, and then you're in the purchase stage, but notice how they stop at purchase. So I noticed a lot in marketing, and then I was on the marketing team. And so I came from a background of content, but then I got stuck in the marketing team and silos. Oh my God, silos in organizations. If you're a young founder, you have a young company, do not do this. Do not have silos. But whatever. Awareness, I'm full of opinions, what I would do differently looking backwards. But here, they notice you've stopped the content here, purchase, because it's the marketing part. It's the buyer's journey. So here and then sometimes it's emotional to rational. What kind of decision makers are there out there? You can entertain people, you can inspire people, you can convince people, and you can educate people. I mean, this is very limited, so I also added, you can entertain, inspire, educate, convince them. You can build trust with content, you can engage with content, you can ask questions, you can give a quiz, you can polls, whatever. You can do lots and lots of things with content. You can influence with the content. That's what a lot of, thought leaders do. They influence with the content they create. You can promote your business, promote your product. So for me, these are all the verbs that you can do with content. You certainly want to educate. You certainly want to convince. You want to build trust. You want to promote. Entertaining, I'm not quite sure if there's room for entertainment in SaaS, but there could be. Look at this competition, branded videos. Like I find a lot of the marketers out there, they're focused on this area, but no judgment. Here's something from Neil Patel. Everything you do in content marketing should be to educate, entertain, inform, or inform. But everybody has an opinion. This is just Neil Patel. The other visual I like, so this was the first visual from Smart Insights, just a marketing matrix, what you can do, the purpose of your content when you create it. The other thing I like, this is almost overwhelming, but I'm a bit of a geek and I just loved it. I thought whoever put it together was so brilliant. But so content strategy, this is what we're talking about. We're spending all this time talking about here. But then you have to think about the format, the type, the platform, how you're measuring it, what you're actually doing with it. There's sharing triggers to consider and checklists. So if you're in I don't know, the consumer goods industry, like your sharing triggers are interesting. Maybe in yours, like in your industry too, maybe your sharing triggers are interesting to think about. But they've just put it all together in a periodic table of content marketing. And it's really good tool to use when you're brainstorming. Just like, it could probably be updated. I didn't check if it was updated, but I like to see what it looks like now. This is something I pulled off again in 2016. TikTok's not on here, for example, but I'm not either, so I'm not on TikTok, I mean. Good content is a combination of, this is from Rand Fishkin again, who's no longer at SEO Moz, but is exceptional, inspirational, unique, different, credible, fun, and beneficial to share. In content marketing, you get your biggest bang for your buck if people share it. It's the word of mouth, the virtual word of mouth. So what I did, I mean, I probably didn't need that slide today, but journeys and content purpose merge. I put it in this nice little table, and I'll show you why I put it in a table like later on, because I developed like a little template in order to develop content for the funnel. So again, you'll notice that your buyer's journey is unaware, aware, considering, buying, experiencing, advocating. The marketing activities that you need to do is push, pull, convince, convert, support, reassure, and then you need to engage, resell, and upsell once they're in this stage. So the purpose of the content at each of these, I added that. So it's that circle graphic from before, but in a linear way. The purpose of the content I added there, because what you have to understand too is the amount of content you need to produce is a lot at the beginning and less towards the end. So that's for me, the important thing to know is that the amount of content you have to produce in order to get people into your funnel sometimes is an enormous amount. But here, again, I just put this, I took this table and I put it on a little template, because when I was creating the next part for that umbrella company, I tried to put the questions or concerns. So this is the purpose of the content down the left. No, purpose of the content here. This is the stage of their journey. And then you would use this template to fill in what you want them to do. So, and a person, because of the nature of the internet, a person can come in at any stage. They can be coming in to your piece of content that you've eventually published at any stage. So if you plan it out, you plan out where they're coming from, or you plan out where you want them to go next. So you answer their questions and concerns. What are their questions and concerns at each stage? Oops. And then the main messages that you want them to have there, and the Chandler touch point that you're going to publish your content in, the call to action, and the desired action. You need the desired action because you really want to measure your success. So this is a template that I created specifically for an e-commerce site, and specifically for umbrella campaign about umbrellas. But let's see if I can. So we'll use that later when I go through the demonstration. Where does this content come from? So again, how do we source content? You can create it, you can curate it, you can generate it, or you can sponsor it, like you can have it created. You can do it yourself, or you can pay for advertising or pay for influencers or something. But in general, it has to come from somewhere. It doesn't just magically appear. So I've been doing a lot of websites lately, and websites just don't appear. Content doesn't appear on a website, on a landing page. You have to make it. So, and then it's like the big ideas and the brand stories. So when you start creating your big idea for your sort of campaign, if you call it for SaaS, it would be for maybe for your acquisition campaign, or your for the campaign that you want to do to get more customers. So I like to ask these questions. How can we create business value from the creation of an engaged audience? What does a customer expect of us? At Pix4D, they expected us to be very technical and very on the ball and very Like we couldn't do anything basic because of the level of understanding of our customers. So how can we create value with content? How can content marketing help your business? If you have to just think of all these questions while you're brainstorming in the ideation phase. Basically, but how can you use content online and offline to drive sales? I like that because I think you shouldn't just put things out there that are just feel good. Like, you really need to be driving sales with everything that you do, my opinion. And then how can you help your customer through their buying stages? So for me, those are the two key ones. And you start thinking about what can we do. So in the and there are content ideas. It's not like, oh, let's go to this trade show or we can have a webinar. Like, you have to have big content ideas, although webinar is a big content idea. And then once you have the big ideas and you understand where do you get content, you understand that it takes people and planning and capability and skills to have that. So you identify what you need, you audit what you have, and then you plan how it's going to get done. So I was just talking to somebody today she's just like, I'm going to make some case studies. I'm doing some case studies. And I'm like, yeah, but what else? What else do you need? She says, I don't know, I need some case studies. And I'm like, well, maybe you should start thinking about really like, what does somebody need in order to engage with you and your services? So that's where she's at there. You can't just, you might already have 10 case studies. You might already have a quiz. You might already have a software trial. So you just need to know what you have, and then you need to work backwards and plan the people to do it. Plan who's going to do what. So that's my governance section. And then you need to know what success looks like. You need to visualize it. For me, when I did this SMART goals and KPIs, I don't know, I was really thinking kind of basic in terms of marketing activities. What are we going to do here? And what are these goals? And what are we going to measure at each stage? You can't say, oh, the goal of the campaign is to have 9 new customers, because there's different stages of that campaign where you can have success. You could have 20 new leads, you could have 17 trials, and you could have 10 new customers. But if you just focus on getting 10 new customers, then you're not going to realize at each stage, like your successes at each stage. And I think it's worth celebrating the successes at each stage. So that's my opinion. But again, you need to know what you're doing, what kind of goals you want, and how you're going to measure it. And if you don't measure it, you don't even know if it was worth spending the money on. So that's my opinion. So I'll just do this walkthrough in the framework with what I did for Librela. So Librela, I don't even know if they exist anymore, but they were selling these beautiful umbrellas. And she had designed them with an element of the rainforest on these umbrellas. And then she also had it set up so that part of her umbrellas, part of her business proceeds went back into the Save the Rainforest Fund. And it was a nice little business there. So enjoy the rainforest. That was her message. So again, oops, I put that. Oh yeah, this is what I thought. It's an extra slide. Your content, you want to grow revenue, shorten the sales cycle, and lower customer acquisition costs. I mean, that is a perfect goal for your content in a SaaS organization. I thought I think I was just brainstorming, and it ended up there as part of my brainstorm. So sorry, but that's where it is. So again, going from here, how to walk through the process with the Librela EU organization. So her mission was to promote and improve the state of the Brazilian rainforest and sell umbrellas. Her target audiences were Europeans, and also specifically the Europeans who wanted to make a difference with their purchasing power. For her business goals for a campaign was to increase new orders and gift orders from the website. That was her specific goal. And then we thought we could have content goals would be entertain, inspire, educate, and motivate. So answering for the compass for the specific acquisition campaign that we were thinking of. We just put it out there, made it visible to everybody. And then we just did this sample mission statement at Librela EU. We want to increase new and gift orders from the website with content that educates and inspires our audience about how they can promote and improve the state of the Brazilian rainforest. So her business goals were to new and gift orders. And we thought we could do this. So our big idea was how we thought about how can content marketing help Librela EU? How can we use content online and offline to drive sales? And how can we use content to help people go through their buying stages? So when we were brainstorming and we came up with this idea, our biggest idea was, so these are the big idea questions and those are the big idea answers. We could create descriptions of elements of the rainforest that were featured on each umbrella, and it answered the following questions. The characteristic traits of each element, why each featured element is important to the ecosystem in the rainforest, and what do they bring to the planet? What will happen when they're gone? Why are they endangered? More. So what you do is you create these descriptions. These descriptions, you know, and they could be in any format. They could be a blog article, they could be a video, they could be an infographic, they could be, but the idea, the content idea is to create these descriptions, but the format was not decided. But it was just like, yeah, we can do that, because once you start putting them in the buyer's journey, the purpose of the item, and the desired action, this call to action and desired action that you want them, you'll see how each one moves it through the journey and moves a potential customer through a journey. So our idea for the unaware phase was it would be a paid social advertisement, and the message would be based on the elements of the campaign, based on those like butterflies or ants or trees or wherever on the, it would be based on, so the main message would be driven from the elements. And then the touch points that we were going to start, this is our paid campaign, was Facebook, Twitter, social, YouTube, like the social channels. And the call to action is, hey, take this quiz to find out which rainforest element you identify with. So the desired action here is like, take the quiz. Who are you? If you were a rainforest element, if you were a part of the rainforest, who would you be, sort of thing. And you want them to click to the quiz. And then it's like, the purpose of this awareness we thought would be entertained. So there's a quiz about the subjects of the umbrellas. And then the main message is, what element are you? Which one do you most identify with? And the channel would be on the blog, and then you would learn more about the one that you think you're most like. So there's this quiz on the blog, and it's actually, the call to action is learn more about the results. And the action that you want them to have on this page is you want them to take the quiz and you want them to learn more about the element. And then once they're on the article about the characteristics, why is it important to the ecosystem, why are they endangered, you want them to learn all about it, and you want them to think, like, the emotional part is, yeah, this could be me. So you want to, the call to action is help save this part of the rainforest, the one that represents you. So buy it, and once you buy it, you convert them to the customer. So you want them to have on the product detail page, you want them to have persuasive content about the element, and how do you feel about saving that part of the rainforest. It's all about tying in the emotions. But you're on the channel, you're on the e-commerce site, you're not on a blog, you're not in social anymore. And your CTA is support the preservation of this element, carry this umbrella, it brings awareness and to other people. And then you have your desired action on the product detail page is a transaction. When they're experiencing, once they receive it, their product, you would want to make them, reassure them, you want to support them. You want to say, this was the right decision, yay you, go you. Now you're part of it. But so your channel touch points there, your thank you page, thank you for ordering, your email confirmation, and then offline, your first offline touch point here is a postcard in the product. Optionally, but you'll see later you could use those as other things. And then you want them to share in word of mouth and have them advocate and say, show you're a hero, show you how you save the rainforest, and share your stuff. I mean, this is the ideal kind of journey. But the thing that you don't know here either, and I didn't think about putting in here, because when I put this together, I didn't own an umbrella, but now I do own one of these umbrellas, is whenever I have this umbrella, so many people ask me, oh, that's a beautiful umbrella. Where did you buy it? So it's like a word of mouth as well, as sharing is also word of mouth, and that's an offline sharing thing. Advocating, so now they're experiencing it, everything is good, and you're advocating their experience with the product. So once they're advocating it, that's a touch point for other people's triggers to get them back into your kind of funnel. But that's just an example how you could use content to move people through a journey. As I said, it was about an umbrella. It's not about big AI SaaS products and stuff, but it just wanted to show you moving from one stage to the other, what kind of content you need to plan for and how you need to start making it work. The last thing is once that was all online, or most of it was online, but you could use that postcard as a shelf talker brochure in boutiques or events if you go to events. And you have two sides of a card, that's offline, and your in-store transaction. So these are the offline kind of touch points where you could also think about where the contents are. Content can affect a transaction. What did I say here? You think, you feel up in this area, and you act down in that area. Anyway, that I think I'm about done. I don't think I have any more slides. There's one more slide about process and planning. Identify what you need, audit what you have, plan. But here I could point out that your visual and communication guidelines, your visual tone, your voice and tone, your SEO guidelines, your tools and technology. I mean, you should do this once a year. You should, but you don't have to do it every campaign or all the time. But those are really big elements of content strategy that you have to think about before you can do the little things. And then as soon as you have more than one person producing content, you certainly need to have the visual and the voice and tone nailed. Good down pat. MailChimp, I don't know if I can find it, but you know, MailChimp has this great voice and tone. I don't know if they still have it online. MailChimp, what do they call it? Editorial guidelines? Oh, style guide, that's what it is. They have it online. Yeah, this one's a good one. This one's also, it's a SaaS product, a well-known SaaS product, and they just publish their voice and tone. But these are really interesting. If you have more than one person doing content, you should really start having a style guide. That's what I mean from that part of the presentation. All right, well, that was a bit longer than expected. I'm sorry, Madhur, but does anybody have any questions? Can I?
So guys, no worries, Jennifer. It was good, and I hope it was useful for others as well. We're gonna take like 4 or 5 minutes for questions. Then we're gonna jump to Aryan, and then at the end we can stay longer to answer more questions. So guys, ask away. You guys can unmute yourself and just jump in.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, great. Thanks you, Jennifer, for the great presentation. I was wondering, I already asked the question, but I think it was for the wrong person. I think in the first part you're presenting a slide with paid media,
Uh,
owned media, and earned media.
yeah,
And what do you mean with earned media?
earned. That's your word of mouth. That's your
Okay.
that's your, so offline it would be me telling somebody, I got this umbrella somewhere, and online it's people saying, look at me, I got this beautiful umbrella.
Okay. Yeah.
Or yeah, it's when you ask them specifically to share their experiences online in different forums and stuff. So it's earned. The best earned media is the spontaneous earned media, where people are kind of telling other people about your product, but you didn't ask them to. But there's a strategy in content marketing where you actually ask people for those. Oh, like in tourism, for example, we ask for reviews all the time. That's their earned media. These review on TripAdvisor, on Google My Business, on stuff like that.
Yeah. Thank you.
No question, guys. Was that so amazing and clear presentation, or it was completely not? At least give some feedback to Jennifer if you don't have any questions.
Well, I have maybe a question or comment
Please.
maybe. It's a lot of work.
It is.
I mean, I think it's not just a full-time job for a person. It's a full-time job for many people, because if you want to structure it in those areas and then this journey, so it's like different types of contents for different buyer journeys. So is there kind of a recommendation that you would say, like, okay, let's say I have 3 hours a week to do content marketing. So what would you say, like, is the minimum essential part, or the absolute minimum part that will get me the furthest with 3-4 hours effort a week as a small
Maybe
startup, for example, small
maybe I
SaaS
can
company?
Maybe I can add to that question, Jennifer. Maybe you can answer it together. If I'm a startup, I just have my first few 10, 20, 30 customers without content, just by doing email outbound, for example. Now I want to get started with content marketing and developing my content strategy, both for marketing and sales. Where do I get started? Because I don't have a team, I don't have enough revenue yet. Where do I, what is the first thing I should do that would give me most bang for my time or buck?
So is everybody here a SaaS? Like they all have software as a service sort of startups?
More or less, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, more or less.
So for me, I would really nail what your customer funnel looks like. I'm going to call it a customer funnel because it's not just buyer's journey, right? Can you see this little yellow note on the top here?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And so for me, you want your customer acquisition. Okay, that doesn't really, it's not really
font
great.
is too small.
Yeah, I'll figure it out in a minute. I'm just
Maybe you
typing,
can
I'm just
just add
brainstorming.
maybe you can add a slide and type it on that.
Okay, I'll go to the slide that I started brainstorming on. Boom, 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 all the way down here. Here it is. I'll just make this font bigger because you'll want to see that. So that's purpose of content. But what you want to do is you want to understand what you need to do: customer acquisition, ACQ, and what do you want them to do there? Like when you get a lead, what is your lead generator? So your lead generator is a trial or a demo, right? So you have to know that it's a trial or demo. Ideally, an automated demo or something, like if you're only a one-person team. So then you have to get your lead generator. nailed. You have to understand what you need to do for customer acquisition. And then once they're in the lead funnel, the lead generator, once they are there. So this, for me, you don't want your lead generator to be a newsletter. Like, no, if you're selling product, you want it to be a trial or demo. So if you only have 3 hours a week, make sure you got a trial going or a demo going. Make sure that you have that. If you have 3 hours and then you think, okay, well, I finally have my lead generator done. What's going on there? Like, how many leads am I getting and how many are converting? Because if you start systematically working through your conversion, so to your conversion, CONVER, conversion part, once you understand where your customers are and at what point they are in your SaaS model conversion, so now they've gone from the trial to a conversion, then you understand after the conversion, what do you need to do to keep them? So I think I would just break it down. I would just break it down to understand what you need to do to get them to move to that place. So to the next place. So you have to make your plan. And if you don't understand what needs to happen in order to move them to the next stage, then you can't understand what kind of content you need to create and what touch points you need to do. So, and you also need to connect your data. If you have a website at xabc.com and then your product is on something.io, you really need to get your analytics set up so that you can start reading what's going on. Because for you, your customer acquisition, if you're not getting enough, if you've got a lead generator and a trial, but you're not getting anybody there, then you focus on your customer acquisition channels, which is paid and social and anything that you already own, and you focus on that if you're not getting leads. But then if you are getting leads, but you're not getting this next step, then you focus on, well, what's going on here? Like Pix4D, the first thing I learned was we were just getting thousands and thousands and thousands of people into the generator, into the trial, and then nothing happened. And 2 weeks later, they're like, do you want to buy this or not? Seriously, that was their onboarding kind of sequence for the thousands and thousands and thousands of people. And the problem, in my opinion, that happened there is like marketing was just focusing on customer, on like getting leads. Nobody was focusing on what do we do once we have the leads and they're in the trial. I mean, that's such an opportunity to keep their attention and to help them through their issues. And once you prove to them that your product solves their problem, then you're like, oh yeah, I want to buy it? Yeah, you do. Don't forget to buy it. So things that you do in customer acquisition, you maybe do them in the big channels, you do them in search, you do them in social, maybe like LinkedIn platforms or somewhere. And once you get them to your trial or demo, then you just have to understand what you need at each phase and what you need to do to move them to the next phase. So yeah, it's a lot of work. I'm not going to deny it.
Jennifer, Augustine has a message for you in chat.
Oh.
He's saying, thank you for the quality of information you shared and gave a broader perspective, and he has been struggling with how to approach the strategy to get started.
Okay. So the first thing to do to get started is understand your, yeah, thank you. That's good.
So let me jump to Aryan, as we are already running late. We can continue to ask more questions later. So Aryan, welcome.
Yes, thank you, Mari, for having me here.
We can keep it as longer and as shorter as you like. The floor is yours to ask questions and seek help. And I really ask other people to participate and help Aryan as well, not just me, Vadima, and Jennifer. So please do actively participate and help him out. Aryan, I would suggest if you could quickly introduce what you do and what your company is about, and then directly jump to the burning questions that you have.
Yes, thank you, Madi, for having me here for the great organization. Thank you, Jennifer, for the presentation. For me, the week started a bit unlucky because I broke my collarbone yesterday, or Sunday actually.
Oh,
So that's why
are
I'm
you
typing
okay
very
now?
slowly. Yeah, I'm okay, but it was a little bit yeah, slowing down today. But it's okay. You learn a lot with your other arms, with your other hands. Um, yeah, so I'm from Simpson, co-founder. Simpson stands for Smart Youth Management Software. We bring together scientific research, data science, and software engineering together to help companies optimize their pricing and demand forecasting with artificial intelligence. We are based in Rotterdam with a lot of technical people, mainly data scientists and software engineers. And I co-founded the company 4 years ago together with a professor from the university. And now we help retailers, manufacturers, and wholesalers with our Simpson product. I know Money since 1 year, and yeah, for me, he's a real expert in the yeah, startup and scale-up challenges. And we have already a few clients, about 10 customers that are using the software of Simpson, and we do a lot with content, especially really for the awareness content, really a lot of outbound emailing. And our whole strategy is actually based on thought leadership and product leadership. So of course we want to have the best AI product for our target group, but we also want to connect with our audience with creating thought leadership content. And what I see as a daily practice, it's actually the kind of same question that came from Vadim, if I pronounce it right, is that you can always create content. Now we are fully busy with creating content about COVID. So we create a white paper about the ultimate guide of pricing in a post-COVID period, and the same for demand forecasting. And it's a lot of work, so we spent I think 2 weeks on it. And you're always seeking for that balance of what is actually the right content to create, the right content to publish, to achieve the goals. And then when I look back to the last 2 years, when we create content, you see that some content is not effective at the other content. And we actually need and are looking for the right structure and the right setup actually to define what is the best content to spend time and money on. First hand to produce it by your own, and on the second hand also to promote it. And that's for us still a bit of a challenge to see, okay, what is the best content. So your presentation was really helpful on the one hand, but on the other hand it was so much information you gave that always it also gave me still the feeling that it's we still have a lot of work to do. So probably this balance is very familiar for you, Jennifer, and maybe you already gave some part of the answer, but I'm really curious how you would handle this challenge for us.
So let me ask you before Jennifer answers the content that you have been creating from last 2 years, or the example you gave about the COVID content. Was it more like to generate leads? Was it more like a lead magnet, or was it for your existing customers? What was the purpose of that content was?
For the current white papers we make it, or not?
Say
Buddy?
again?
Is that the question is for the current white papers we make around COVID?
For example, we can start with that example.
That's actually both. So on the first place, to convince new customers or potential customers to find us with this content, but secondly also to make the current product and the current customers get them a kind of guide or guidelines to use our product during COVID and post-COVID times, because you see that the technology we develop is also changing a bit in this period, because if you're trying to forecast the demand, pro-COVID, it was before COVID, it was totally different than after COVID and also post-COVID. So also our current customers need some help, need some guidelines. That's also why we create this content.
Got it. But your main challenge now, or what you want to achieve, is more leads, or more or more conversion from leads to customers, or
more
something
leads.
else?
Yeah, definitely more leads, because I think we are able to, when they have a demo, to convince customers, but attracting the right customers to our website, that's a big bit of a challenge we're struggling with.
Okay, so it's more like content that can be used either as a lead magnet, or the content that can be used to create a free trial sign up.
Yeah.
Or so what do you do, like trial sign up or a demo?
Demo.
Demo. So either to book a demo or give you their email address so you can proactively reach out to them.
Secondly, and then after demo, most of the times the trial will follow.
Right, but you said the first focus is to book the demo,
Yeah.
or get somebody's email ID who's potentially interested, so you can reach out to book the demo.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Jennifer, still there? Jennifer?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Any suggestion or any questions you want to ask more to Aryan to give him more specific suggestions about creating a content to book a demo and attract, basically.
Attract. So let me see, I'm just going back to my page that I had. So you're looking for the attraction phase, or the customer acquisition phase. You want to get them to a trial or a demo. Yeah. So, for me, I mean, I have to look at your website, and I just texted inside. Yes, it is this one that we're looking at. Okay, I had to go back and find it. So for me,
maybe Jennifer, you can share your screen, and as you look at the website and you have your framework, maybe that would be easier for him and us to connect as you give your input.
Okay. Well, does share screen, going back to sharing screen. So I was just looking at this. For me, you're, without knowing anything else about your business other than it's a SaaS business, and that you want to take them this path. You want to get more people to the lead generator. So for me, if I had a website, I would, my husband's home, okay. So for me, if I had a website, the kind of channels that I'd be focusing on first is I'd be focusing on search. I'd be doing a search analysis to make sure that I am completely optimized for search. And then nowadays, search takes a long time. There's a lot of technical parts, but if you're a software company, you shouldn't have the technical blocker there. And then there's keyword research and technical part, and then there's the actual creating the content part. So I would take it through kind of a SEO audit process first, just to understand more about how people currently are finding you, and if they're finding you at all. And if not, then it's something that you have to work on, because everybody's experience starts in search, or a lot of it starts in social and LinkedIn. So So again, without having looked at your website or done any sort of analysis on your product or understanding where you're at, but the types of content you could use to attract people would be like you have, I think I saw it on here, you have a video here. You could have anything that's behind a wall. So other types of content you could work on are creating webinars. You have this playbook that you have, a playbook. This is your main lead generator, right? But it also, yeah, I don't like thinking out loud, Maddie. I'm not good at this. There's just so many ways you could approach it, that's all. But I think I would focus in search. I'd do the SEO audit and I would figure out what's going on there. I would do your audience analysis, which is who are the customers that you already have and how is your product helping and what problems do you solve? Because once you understand the problems that they solve, those are your clickbaits and your social, your other media or your other platforms that drive traffic to your website. So for me, the first thing to do is understand.
Have you already done, Aryan, a bit of a SEO analysis of how people are finding you at the moment?
Yeah, we started that 2 months ago, and we're still in the process with optimizing. Especially, yeah, we started with some campaigns, and now it's really in the optimizing phase.
Okay.
So search is really one of the focus areas right now. But secondly, after optimizing search and after optimizing your website, we want to be there continuously for our target group because the market is dynamic. There's happening a lot. I think you can every week you can write relating content.
Yeah.
I'm really looking for the right balance to attract the customers.
Where do you publish it?
Where?
Yeah.
On our website.
Where?
Under Insights. If you go to the website.
Ah, yeah. Okay.
And also on LinkedIn.
Okay. So, all right.
Do you also do some paid promotion for the content you create?
Yeah, especially on LinkedIn.
And how do you today, when you write these insight blog posts, how do you choose a topic today?
Yeah, mainly we ask it to our customers, not directly. So what kind of content are you looking for? But yeah, we heard it from where are they struggling with.
So just to be aware, the content that your customers will tell you what they're looking for might not be the same that will attract new customers who are in the unaware situation.
That would be true. Yeah. Yeah.
So one of the things which might be useful as you're doing your SEO analysis is just to look at the phrases that people use to find you, and just change that phrase into a question, and that will be your clickbait title of content. Have you already thought about that or doing that already?
So to analyze your customer journey and to see, okay, what phase.
No, not the journey, just the SEO. Just how, when you generate organic search traffic, what phrases is generating that traffic?
Okay, so we haven't done it yet.
You find that in your Google Search Console. So make sure you connect your Google Search Console. It's under the performance on the left-hand side and then queries. It'll tell you what queries. So Google Search Console will tell you the search queries in which they present your page. And so those are called the impressions. So it shows your page and then there's like a click through where they say this is what people, this was the query that they searched on, we presented it, and often I find that there's no click through rate, but what you want to do is you want to be presented, so you want to still show up on the impressions. So that's the search query that they're using. And then you also want to improve the click-through from search to your site. And so that where you need to optimize that stuff like that is in the title and the meta description and just images. Maybe there's an image there. There's something also called rich snippets. So it's, yeah, just, as I said, there's so many facets to this. There's so many facets that you can do, but that's why you have to just focus on one. I'm looking at your LinkedIn profile here. And so you created this content and then you published it on your site, and then this is the click through, right? So another thing that you could do instead of just kind of republishing your content here is maybe you could take that content and make some sort of easy infographic or easy, something like what is it? Your 7-step plan for post-corona growth. And you make it so that people want to click through it. So they think, oh, if I click through here, I'm going to learn something from their website. So you would normally create an infographic for LinkedIn, and then you would publish the different sections, like a more detailed blog post on your blog post, so that people are actually going to, just helps with the click-through rate if they think they're going to learn or get more when they click through.
Yeah.
Another question, sorry, go ahead, Aryan.
No, that's great advice, Jennifer. Yeah.
Another question I have is, like, this is a blog post, so where are you asking the email address of the person to actually see the content or whatever?
Oh.
I think that's really on the website itself. So if people are triggered to do a demo, then that's the conversion.
So I clicked through. I don't know if everybody saw me click through, but you know, once you get here, you click through here, and you get people, if you keep their attention, and they get down to the bottom. You know, a really good thing here is just to say, not conclusion and not sources, not this sort of stuff, but you just say, right, and we can help you. Book your demo now. Bang, just tell them that. Just put that right there, the next thing. Like right now, they have to go looking for it, but there's no harm in putting a section there. And if this is in WordPress, you can make it like a reusable content piece, where it's just like, you know what? We can help you do this. Just book our demo. Our software will help you do this. Book a demo. Do it now. Because if you have their attention, you want them to get to the next step, which is adding a call to action in every blog post.
Yeah, that's
or you could have it as a, I don't know how, you know, savvy you are, but if you have a sidebar on the side, you could have it as a sticky sidebar that as you scroll down, there's like a little booking piece. But I quite like in context call to actions and not ones that are like book your demo, book your demo, book your demo. So I like ones that once they get to the bottom, or at some sort of intermediary one, like you always want to plan your content so you're solving a problem for them.
Yeah.
And then they want to be like, oh, this can solve the problem. This is the problem I have, and book a demo. Because they're not always coming to this blog post from the LinkedIn or from wherever you publish it. Sometimes they'll find it online. Sometimes they'll get it in an email or however it is. So you always really want to have your good, clear call to action on your blog post.
Yeah.
In my opinion, Aryan, you're being too passive. And you cannot be that passive and hope people will figure out themselves to book a demo or sign up or what you do. Or if they come to this blog post, it's a bad assumption to make that they will look at whose blog post it is. What is this company do? Nobody looks at that. They'll read the blog post and they close. So you have to be a bit more aggressive in terms of driving that call to action, in terms of driving that understanding within this blog post that that what you do, how can you help, and where they can book the demo.
Okay. Yeah.
Or where they can put their email address for something else. Another thing which I also see is that you do have quite a bit of content, and you can get more topics of creating content easily by what Jennifer said. So looking at the Search Console and just putting them as questions that people are asking, by which they're naturally, but you're not creating, you're not transforming that content into ways where people have to put their email address or their phone numbers or something to see part of that more valuable side of content, so that you can get their email address so you can do outbound later, or you get their phone number so you can call them later. Which part, I don't know if you're running that kind of Facebook ads or something, but I didn't find much based on the few minutes I spent. But you do have a bit of content. And there are, like, when we talk about lead magnets, they don't have to be white paper or ebooks or things like that. Simply having this blog and creating like a one-pager template or one-pager checklist is a lead magnet. And sometimes lead magnet can be just one paragraph or 3 paragraphs of text. Once a while ago, I was doing this analysis in very unusual niches, and I was looking at like what kind of lead magnets are working best for them. One example that I would never forget, I came across from this guy who was coaching guys how to get dates, or how to behave in when they go on a date. And the best performing lead magnet he had was when to know how to know when to kiss the girl on a date. And when you sign up for that, he has 3 paragraphs. He just had a litmus test, 3-step litmus test. That's it. That's what his lead magnet was. And it was so performing such great that he was getting a lot of, he was building his email list pretty cheaply with that 3 paragraphs. Just as an example. So don't have to be a complicated content. How many lead magnets do you have today, which you have to put their email address to access, Aryan?
Last week we produced 2 extra because we have 2 applications, demand forecasting and pricing. And I surely agree that it can be more simple. It can be with less effort, and it comes all with knowing your customer and see what is the real pain, where they want to where they have the problem, and where your solution comes in. So I think that's a great example what you're telling, Moni. Yeah.
And I think you can simply start with Search Console queries, because in your case, at least you have this website from 2 years. That means you should have some data in your Search Console. Anything else, Aryan, or anything else, Jennifer, you want to talk about this, or he should do?
Well, just for me, you can change the format. You can still have the same content. You could change the format. So I was just kind of scrolling through this, and I thought, your unbeatable plan for post-corona growth. I mean, it is good. It's an unbeatable plan, but it just from marketing, and I'm not sure about your audience, but you might improve your click-through rate if it was like your 4-week plan to post-corona growth. So they think, oh yeah, there's only 4 steps or 4-week or something on it. And also your content, this could be, if you had the what do you call it, the capacity for it, this could be a short webinar. Instead, you can just say, right, your lead magnet is this, your plan for growth, and we're going to help you through it, but you have to sign up for this webinar. And once you do your first webinar, you record it, and then you have a recorded webinar, and then it's like gated content that you can use later for the email, to collect your email list. More and more people are less and less likely to give up their emails. But at the same time, it's a way to get it. So instead of just having a blog post, another thing you could have is a recorded webinar, which would include this kind of sprint 1, sprint 2, sprint 3, and a demo of your product. So, and it could be a recording, and then it's your lead magnet that attracts people with this particular problem. And you don't, once you've done it, you've set it up, and it's like running on its own.
Just adding to what Jennifer says, I think your problem is not more content, is more reformatting of the content and using that content more aggressively. And the last point is, it actually sometimes it matters later how good the content is, but it matters first how good the title is. Because that's what people see and click.
Yeah.
That's what people see, like in a webinar. That's what people see and decide whether they want to give their email address or not. So, for example, like Jennifer well said, that this title is not very attractive, and it's very vague, like who this is for, plan to achieve what. So, for example, if you say, hey, 4-week plan for retailers to do something with pricing post-corona, or, I mean, this is too long, but it has to be better phrased. That's more tangible. Or a 4-step plan, or one thing you should be doing now. I mean, it does sound sometimes a bit more clickbaity, but it works.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Jennifer, can you go back to the insight just to have an overview of the titles they have on the website?
Sometimes I was just going to say that's great, because sometimes you just have to rewrite the titles and you might get more engagement, more traffic, more if you just rewrite the titles. But
and then reformat the content in different formats and then use it as a gated content.
yeah,
Some of those format, and then just drive paid traffic to it.
frequently asked questions. Oh, sorry. I just said, oh, look, you have a fact. Yeah, let me just check something here. Come on, Rich. Oh, come on, I don't want that. Rich snippet. Testing tool. Boom. You know, sometimes these questions, so you have a fact here because people are asking questions before using Simason. Okay. Yeah, you can get I just realized, oops, you could definitely get a copywriter here who could help you out a lot. Just to, if you get a copywriter to work over the content, it's much better. So why buy from us, not from you? I'm the reader. Why us? What makes us so special in the market? So who are you? Best moments. What data do I need? So these questions are the questions people ask you, not questions that people ask. Correct? Yes.
What do you mean?
So these are the questions that people ask you about pricing, for example. They're not the questions that people ask and
themselves.
that ask, search or ask themselves.
This should be updated continuously, actually.
That's a little bit, okay.
So actually, this is what we were talking about. The Search Console is the questions they ask themselves when they are in the unaware or aware stage.
Yeah.
So I'll just show you and other people here. If you haven't connected your Search Console, make sure you connect your Search Console. I'll just, I was just gonna look at one of my sites, but here's one of my guys in Israel. He's doing tours in Israel. So it's just here under performance. Then you see the queries that people are finding your site with, but the ones that you're most important, so it defaults to the query that has the most clicks. I mean, that always makes you feel good, but the important one is a query where they show you the most. So this means that Google showed them on Israel private tours and nobody clicks through there. So that's like one area to improve your SEO technical part, which is your title, your H1, your H2s, your H3s, your alt tags, your images, you know, everywhere that you need to improve your SEO in order to get some more clicks through to your site. So as I said, the important is the impressions, how many times Google shows your site, and then how many clicks that you get through it. You can also filter it here by impressions and by clicks, I think. But I don't know, I don't know if that works. No, it doesn't. I thought you could. Well, so you just play around here, but if you need a tour of Search Console, it just helps. This is a really great place to get started on what they're typing in and what Google's showing you for. So it's a good place to get started. But if you have budget and you have funding, then it's also good to get, you know, the specialist to do that for you, because it'll take them like a quarter of the time it'll take you to do that.
Also, you can do the same thing for your competitors who have much more traffic by using other tools like SEMrush, Href. What's your favorite, Moz?
Well, Moz and Ubersuggest are good, especially in the States. They're good in the States. You have different tools for different things. I use Ubersuggest. I like Moz because Moz gives you this, you can look at other people's websites and then gives you the overlap of keywords they're ranking for. So you can sort of understand what your competitors are ranking for and then try and get also take some of their traffic. So Moz does that with the keyword site analyzer. Ubersuggest, it kind of does it at one page at a time. You don't get you get a Venn graphic in Moz. But again, you have to be aware that Moz and Ubersuggest are very much based on US English searches. One tool I liked, it was called Surfer SEO. That was a really helpful tool and cheap to understand like how many times a search phrase is getting searched for. So Surfer SEO, it was $1 for the trial, which was a nice period of time for me to do my keyword research. And once you typed your words in search, so if you typed in food tours San Francisco, it would tell you how many times your kind of word was being searched. So when I did the analysis for Stretchy Pants, it was like food tours versus food experiences versus food walks. And my client really wanted to optimize on food walks and food experiences, but I used like 3 tools to prove to her that nobody's searching on those terms. Nobody's going to find you, even if you are optimized. It's like nobody's typing in those terms. So those are just like things. So again, if you have a bit of funding, if you have a bit of money, those are maybe projects you want to farm out to a SEO specialist. I have a ton in my network if you are interested in that. And they're really good. They're really fast.
I think, Aryan, in your case, when you're thinking about using content to generate leads, it's actually much less emphasis on creating the content. Creating the content is something you can almost 60 to 70% outsource at much cheaper prices. What is more important, or rather critical, is what is the topic we're writing content on, and how then we actually use that content to generate leads. How do we, in which formats do we make it gated, or how that format or how that content actually redirect people to sign up for a demo in a bit more straightforward way. So apart from few things that we covered here, there are a few more things. I actually wrote in a long guide about how to create webinars, and but the main section, one of the section in that guide, is about how to find topics that the people that you're targeting are looking for. So I'm just gonna put that guide in the chat. If that interests you, you can have a look at it later. It covers some other ways which we didn't talk about yet today to find those topics. And then, yeah, I mean, reformatting content, and how do we create lead magnets, and how do we then drive traffics, and how do we do A/B testing. That's a completely another topic in content lead gen.
It's a great article.
Rather, PPC lead gen. Sorry, you were saying, Arian?
It's a great article. I will read it carefully.
Have you seen it already?
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah.
Oh,
No,
okay.
not seen it, but I'm seeing it now, but not reading it.
Okay, sure.
Nice.
Anything else, Arian, that we should talk about?
No, this is for me already very valuable, especially what has been shared in your main talk, Jennifer, and yeah, your comments, Muddy. And I really have to go now because my girlfriend is also waiting for dinner.
Sure.
But it was really valuable for me. So it was also nice meeting some people from Switzerland. And I hope this mastermind is also welcoming international startups. For me, it was really nice to brainstorm in this setup.
Sure, happy to. We'll stay in touch. We'll talk again soon, and see how we can drive this further.
Okay, great.
In
Thanks,
the meantime, all the best.